Hello, friends. Tonight, we are going back to a quieter time, before the noise of the modern world began. Now, let your shoulders drop, close your eyes, and imagine the glow of a single oil lamp flickering in the dark. Let the rain outside your window blend with the rain falling on a Roman tent 2,000 years ago. I'd love to know where in the world you are drifting off from tonight. Let me know in the comments. A time of marble and dust, of empires rising and falling like the tides. We are stepping into the sandals of a man who owned the world, but wanted only peace. The rain begins to fall, a steady rhythmic drumming on the stretched leather of the tent. Listen closely. It's a sound that has echoed through millennia, unchanged. You can almost feel the cool dampness in the air, the scent of wet earth and distant wood smoke. It is deep night on the Danube frontier, a place far from the warm, bustling heart of Rome. Here, at the very edge of the known world, the wind carries whispers of barbarian lands, of cold forests and frozen rivers. Inside the tent, a single oil lamp casts flickering shadows that dance on the canvas walls. Its weak light illuminates a simple wooden table worn smooth by countless journeys. A man sits there, hunched over a stack of papyrus scrolls. He is old, his face etched with the lines of command and contemplation, his shoulders bearing the invisible weight of an empire. This is the emperor, Marcus Aurelius, but tonight he is just a man. His hand moves slowly, deliberately, a reed pen scratching softly across the rough surface of the papyrus. The only sounds are the rain, the gentle hiss of the lamp's flame, and the whisper of ink meeting paper. Around him the vast Roman army sleeps, a silent, disciplined beast under the watchful stars. You can almost hear the soft, steady breathing of thousands of men, wrapped in their heavy wool cloaks, dreaming of home, or perhaps of the morning's battle. He is the most powerful man on earth, yet in this moment he is utterly alone. No courtiers, no generals, no clamoring crowds, just the quiet company of his own thoughts. And he does not seek to escape this solitude. He embraces it. It is in this profound quiet that he finds his peace, a small, still harbor in the storm of his duties. Feel the cold mist that seeps in under the tent flap, a gentle caress on your skin. Notice the glint of distant armor, left out in the rain, catching the faint light from the campfires. It almost seems to hum with a quiet energy, waiting for the dawn. But for now, there's only this profound stillness, this moment suspended between the world's demands and the soul's deepest longings. His pen continues to move, slowly, steadily, capturing the wisdom that flows from his quiet mind. He is not anxious. He is simply present, observing the universe, and himself within it. Let this stillness settle over you too. Let the rhythmic rain lull your thoughts, washing them clean, just as it cleanses the ancient world outside his tent. Long before the heavy purple robes, before the weight of the golden crown, there was a boy named Marcus. He grew up in a Rome that was, for a time, at peace. Imagine the bright Roman sunlight, warm and golden, filtering through the lush green leaves of a villa garden. You can almost smell the fragrant roses and the damp earth after a morning shower. As a young boy, he was quiet, thoughtful, perhaps a little too serious for his age. He wasn't drawn to the boisterous games of other children, but rather to the cool, shaded colonnades of his family's grand house. Here, the air was filled with the scent of old parchment and the low, steady murmur of learned voices. He preferred the company of philosophers and tutors, their words like gentle streams guiding his young mind. Emperor Hadrian, a man of keen insight, saw something special in this boy. He nicknamed him Verasimus, the most truthful. Imagine a child whose honesty was so striking, so pure, that an emperor would bestow such a title. Feel the smooth, cool touch of polished marble beneath your bare feet as you walk through those ancient halls. The sunlit dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, golden stars. Even as a boy, Marcus was drawn to the teachings of the Stoics, a philosophy that valued virtue, reason, and an acceptance of fate. He lived simply, even austerely, a contrast to the lavishness of his aristocratic upbringing. Picture him, a young man, perhaps in a simple Greek tunic, choosing to sleep on a hard floor instead of a soft bed. It was a small act of self-discipline, a quiet rebellion against luxury, a way to train his mind and body for the challenges he knew, deep down, might one day come. The atmosphere of this time was one of purity and order. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, was in its final golden glow. The city hummed with a quiet efficiency, the sounds of distant chariots and the gentle murmur of conversations in the forum. You might hear the rustle of a new scroll being unrolled, the faint, earthy scent of the papyrus filling the air. His teachers, men like Diognetus and Apollonius, spoke in calm, measured tones, their voices like a soothing balm, explaining the complexities of the universe, the nature of good and evil, the path to inner tranquility. He spent his days surrounded by stacks of scrolls, the wisdom of the ancients waiting patiently to be absorbed. Imagine the texture of a rough wool cloak, a simple garment that offered comfort and warmth, worn close to his skin. This was a time of quiet learning, of gentle guidance, of a mind being carefully shaped, like a potter molding clay. He was not yet burdened by the world, only curious about its truths, seeking understanding in every shadow and every shaft of sunlight. Let the echoes of those calm, scholarly voices and the peaceful hum of ancient Rome cradle you now. The years flowed by like a slow, inevitable river. Marcus, no longer a boy, but a man of maturity and wisdom, spent 23 years as the designated heir to Emperor Antoninus Pius. Imagine this long, patient wait. The Palatine Hill Palace vast and imposing, casting long, cool shadows across its courtyards. You can almost feel the weight of expectation, the silent, invisible pressure that built year after year. Antoninus Pius was a good emperor, a man of peace and stability, and Marcus served him faithfully. Learning the intricate dance of imperial administration, the subtle power plays, the endless petitions. He never sought the throne. In fact, he dreaded it. He was a philosopher at heart, content with his studies, his family, and his quiet contemplation. But fate, an unyielding force in the Stoic worldview, had other plans. When Antoninus Pius finally passed away in 161 AD, the moment arrived. The air in the Senate House was thick with anticipation, the low whispers of the senators like the rustling of dry leaves. Marcus, in his customary simple tunic, stood before them. He was not eager, not ambitious. His acceptance was not a triumph, but an act of profound duty. Feel the texture of the heavy purple robe as it is placed upon his shoulders. This is not just a garment. It is the weight of an empire, the burden of millions of lives, the responsibility for justice, peace, and war. The imperial purple, once a symbol of power, now felt like a heavy, almost suffocating embrace. Imagine the cold, solid metal of the golden crown placed upon his brow. It is a circlet of immense beauty, yet it pressed down with the combined weight of history and an uncertain future. He did not want this power, but he accepted it. This was his destiny, his role in the grand cosmic play. There was a quiet solemnity in his acceptance, a profound sense of resignation mixed with resolve. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with trials and tribulations. But a Stoic does not shrink from duty. He faces it calmly with an inner strength that is unshakable. Let this slow, deliberate acceptance wash over you. There is a deep comfort in this sense of inevitability, of taking on what must be done, not with excitement, but with a quiet, steady resolve. The long shadows of the palace stretch out, vast and encompassing, just as the responsibilities of the empire now stretched before him. He simply nodded, a silent acknowledgment of the path laid out for him, and in that nod there was a profound peace, an understanding that even the heaviest burdens can be carried with dignity and grace. The air in Rome grew heavy, not with the usual summer heat or the scent of spices from the forum, but with something else. Something unseen yet deeply felt. A quiet dread began to creep through the narrow alleyways and across the grand plazas. The city, once a vibrant tapestry of voices and movements, started to unravel. The usual roar of the market softened, then faded into an uneasy murmur, and finally into a chilling silence. You remember the bustling crowds, the laughter echoing between marble columns, the clatter of 1,000 sandals on cobblestones. Now, imagine those streets empty. The sunlight, once dancing on the faces of merchants and senators, now falls on deserted pavements, illuminating only the dust motes dancing in the stillness. A strange, almost unnatural quiet descends, broken only by the distant, mournful sound of a cart. A heavy wooden cart, its wheels groaning slowly over the stones, carrying its silent cargo. This was the Antonine Plague, a sickness that swept through the empire like a phantom, stealing breath, extinguishing lives, leaving behind only grief and bewildered silence. It began in the east, a dark rumor carried back by returning legions, a silent enemy that crossed seas and mountains without a single battle cry. Soon it was in Rome. It touched the rich and the poor, the mighty and the humble with equal, indifferent hand. Marcus, even as emperor, was not immune to its shadow. He walked through the imperial gardens, and the usual chirping of birds seemed muted, the rustle of leaves a whisper of sorrow. He saw the faces of his people drawn with fear, their eyes wide with unspoken questions. Death, once a distant concept, a heroic end on the battlefield, or a peaceful fading in old age, was now an ever-present guest. It sat at every table, it slept in every bed. But for Marcus, this widespread sorrow, this universal experience of loss, became a deeper teacher. He had long pondered death, not with fear, but with a philosopher's calm curiosity. He saw it not as an abrupt ending, but as a natural transition, a part of the grand, ceaseless rhythm of the cosmos. Like the changing of seasons, like the falling of leaves in autumn, close your eyes now and picture a single dry leaf. It drifts from a branch released from its attachment, twirling gently in the cool autumn air. It doesn't fight the wind, it doesn't cling to the tree. It simply yields gracefully to the earth below. This is how Marcus saw death. A release, a gentle letting go. The smoke from the funeral pyres sometimes cast a haze over the city, a soft gray mist that softened the sharp edges of the buildings, blurring the lines between earth and sky. It wasn't a terrifying smoke, but a transforming one, carrying the essence of what was back into the air, back into the vast and different universe. The smell, if you could imagine it, was not of horror, but of something ancient, something that had always been and always would be. A return to dust, a return to the elements. He wrote in his journal during those dark days, perhaps by the flickering light of a single lamp, the silence of the plagued city pressing in around him. He wrote of the shortness of life, the fleeting nature of all things, but not with despair, and rather with a profound sense of acceptance. You have existed as a part. You shall disappear in that which produced you, he mused. Just as a wave rises from the ocean and then dissolves back into its vastness, the plague stripped away the illusions of permanence. It reminded everyone that titles, wealth, and power were just temporary garments. What remained was the core of a person, their character, their spirit, and even that, in time, would return to the great whole. Let the image of those silent streets, softened by a gentle mist, settle in your mind. The distant, slow creak of a cart, moving with a rhythm that is almost a lullaby. The understanding that all things pass, all things return, and in that passing there is a quiet peace. The fear of death, he believed, was merely the fear of the unknown. But what if the unknown was simply a deep, untroubled sleep? A profound rest after a long, eventful day. He saw the plague not as a curse, but as a reminder of nature's relentless cycle. A clearing, a renewal, a gentle hand guiding souls back to the universal source. And in that perspective, even the greatest sorrow could find a measure of calm, a whisper of release. The city was still, but within Marcus, a different kind of life was awakening, a deeper understanding, a more profound acceptance, a quiet courage in the face of the inevitable. The plague eventually receded, but for Marcus, the challenges never truly ceased. The empire, vast and sprawling, was always under pressure, always at its edges. And so he left the marble palaces of Rome, the warmth of the Mediterranean sun, and journeyed north, far north, to the cold, damp frontiers, where the Roman legions stood guard against the Germanic tribes. This was not a quick campaign. This was a commitment of years, a decade and more of his life. Imagine the endless journey, the soft, rhythmic thud of horses' hooves on muddy tracks, the creak of wagons carrying supplies, the low murmur of soldiers' voices. The world here is different, less vibrant, more muted. The sky is often a uniform, heavy gray, pressing down on the vast, ancient forests. These are not the manicured groves of Rome, but wild, untamed woods, their branches gnarled and dark, reaching up like skeletal fingers. You are there, in the midst of it. Feel the dampness in the air, a constant chill that seeps into your bones. The roads are not paved with Roman stones, but are churned earth, turned to thick, clinging mud by the incessant rain. Listen now to the rain. It falls, steadily, relentlessly, drumming on the canvas of tents, dripping from the leaves of the trees, turning every path into a slippery, arduous journey. It is a sound that becomes part of the landscape, part of your very being, a constant soothing drone that washes over everything. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months. The routine is monotonous, predictable. Wake before dawn, the air sharp and cold, the smell of damp earth and wood smoke, the clatter of armor, the low commands, the endless preparations. Then the march, mile after mile through the same gray forests along the same muddy rivers. The soldiers move with a practiced rhythm, their footsteps a dull, repetitive crunch, crunch, crunch in the mud. It is a sound that lulls the mind, a steady heartbeat of endurance. Marcus, the emperor, was no exception. He shared the hardships of his men. He did not retreat to luxurious quarters. His tent was simple, offering little more than shelter from the elements. He ate the same coarse bread, drank the same watery wine. He knew the taste of the cold wind, the feel of soaked wool against his skin. He saw the same gray skies day after day. This war was not a glorious clash of heroes. It was a war of attrition, of patience, of enduring the cold, the hunger, the constant threat of unseen enemies. It was a war fought against the elements as much as against any human foe. The rivers, sometimes swollen and fast, sometimes frozen solid, were formidable barriers. The forests offered both cover and hidden dangers. Picture a frozen river. Its surface is still, hard, reflecting the dull light of the sky. Beneath, the water moves slowly, silently, a hidden current. The trees along its banks are bare, their branches encrusted with frost, standing like silent sentinels. The air is so still you can almost hear the cold itself, and somewhere nearby a rusty sword, perhaps forgotten in the mud, slowly succumbs to the elements, its once sharp edge dulled by time and weather. This monotonous endurance, this slow, grinding struggle, became a crucible for Marcus's philosophy. He found strength not in victory parades, but in the quiet discipline of facing each day as it came. The external world was a chaos of mud, rain, and conflict, but within he cultivated a different kind of order. The sound of the rain, the steady march, the quiet rustle of the damp forest leaves. These sounds become a part of you, a gentle rhythm that allows your mind to quiet, to let go of its own struggles. There is a strange comfort in this sameness, this predictability of hardship. It asks nothing of you but to simply be, to simply endure. He did not rage against the endless war or the harsh conditions. He accepted them as he accepted the falling of the leaves, the coming of winter. These were simply facts of existence, challenges to be met with a calm and steady heart. The mud would dry. The sun would eventually return, even if only for a brief moment, and then the rain would come again and again. Let the image of those gray, damp forests, the endless rhythmic rain, the slow, steady footsteps of the soldiers wash over you now. Feel the weariness in your own limbs, the quiet resignation in your spirit. There is a deep, profound rest to be found in simply letting go, in accepting what is, and allowing the monotonous rhythm of the world to carry you into sleep. This was the emperor's life for years, a testament to endurance, a meditation on acceptance. After years on the frontier facing plague, war, and the endless demands of an empire, Marcus had built something far more enduring than any physical fortress. He called it the inner citadel. This was not a place on a map, but a sanctuary within the mind, a refuge that no external storm could ever breach. Imagine now with me this inner citadel. It exists deep within you, at the very core of your being. Picture it as a sturdy, ancient structure, perhaps carved from solid rock, standing firm against the elements. Its walls are thick, made of heavy, unyielding stone, polished smooth by time and wisdom. These walls are not meant to keep the world out in anger, but to shield a precious sacred space within. Outside these walls, the world might be raging. Perhaps a storm is brewing, winds howling, rain lashing down, mirroring the chaos and uncertainty of life. You might hear the distant rumble of thunder with a gentle, insistent patter of rain against the stone, much like the rain on the Roman tents, or the rain on the muddy plains of the Marcomannic frontier. But inside, within the heart of this citadel, there is absolute stillness. Step inside now. The heavy wooden door, bound with iron, closes softly behind you, sealing out the noise and the frenzy of the outside world. Here, the air is warm, dry, and utterly peaceful. There is no chill, no dampness, no intrusive sound, only a profound, enveloping quiet. In the center of this inner chamber, perhaps a small, welcoming fireplace glows with a steady, soft light. The flames dance gently, casting warm, flickering shadows on the stone walls, creating a sense of comfort and security. You can feel the gentle warmth radiating from it, chasing away any lingering cold or tension from your body. The scent of ancient wood smoke, subtle and calming, fills the air. This is your sanctuary. This is where you can retreat, no matter what troubles besiege the outer world. Here, your thoughts can settle like dust motes in a beam of sunlight. Here, your breath can deepen, slow, and become utterly even. You are safe. You are protected. Marcus taught that nothing external can truly harm your inner self, your true essence. The world can throw its arrows, its plagues, its wars, its betrayals, but they cannot penetrate these thick stone walls. They cannot touch the quiet flame that burns steadily within your inner citadel. You are the master of this space. You decide what enters and what stays outside. Worry, fear, anger, regret, sap me. They are like gusts of wind trying to batter the walls. But the walls hold firm. They are made of your wisdom, your acceptance, your understanding of what truly matters. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet in this inner chamber. Feel the steady warmth from the fireplace. Listen to the profound silence that embraces you. This silence is not empty. It is full of peace, full of clarity. It is the sound of your own calm, steady presence. In this inner citadel, you are completely secure. Nothing can disturb you here. No past regrets, no future anxieties. Only the present moment, held in perfect tranquility. This is the place where you can process the day, observe your thoughts without judgment, and then gently, effortlessly, let them go. Imagine sinking into a comfortable, ancient chair by the fireplace. The stone is cool to the touch, but the fire warms you. Your eyes grow heavy. The gentle flickering of the flames is mesmerizing, a soft, hypnotic dance. The silence deepens even further, wrapping around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. This inner fortress is always available to you. You can return to it any time you need to find peace, to find strength, to find your center. It is your ultimate refuge, your personal haven of absolute security. The world outside may continue its ceaseless turning, but within these walls you are still, you are whole. You are at peace. Let the image of these thick stone walls, this warm fireplace, this profound silence, guide you deeper and deeper into relaxation. Feel the absolute security, the absolute calm. You are safe. You are drifting. You are home within your own inner citadel. The world from this height is a breath, a slow, quiet exhalation. He often found himself, even in the clamor of the imperial tent or the solemn quiet of his private rooms in Rome, lifting his mind upwards. Not in a literal sense, of course, but through a deliberate act of imagination, a mental exercise he found profoundly soothing. He called it the view from above. Imagine, if you will, that you are rising now, slowly, gently, as if lifted by an invisible, soft current of air. Feel the subtle shift as the floor beneath you recedes, as the walls of your room begin to shrink. The ceiling drifts away, and suddenly you are no longer confined. You are floating upwards, effortlessly. The sounds of your immediate surroundings begin to soften, to fade. The hum of the night, the distant murmur of the city, the gentle rhythm of your own breathing furtive, they become less distinct, absorbed into a growing silence. The air around you cools, a crisp, clean breath against your skin, even as you remain perfectly still, perfectly warm, perfectly safe. Below you, the familiar landscape of your world begins to unfold, to simplify. Houses become patterns, streets become lines, trees become clusters of green. The individual details, so vibrant and demanding just moments ago, now blur into a harmonious mosaic. You see the roofs, the gardens, the winding paths, all connected, all part of a larger design that was invisible from ground level. You continue to ascend higher and higher. The air grows thinner, clearer, smelling faintly of ancient starlight in the vast, empty spaces between worlds. The colors below deepen, the greens richer, the blues more profound. The intricate tapestry of human life, with all its bustling activity, its hurried movements, its ceaseless chatter, becomes a quiet, intricate artwork. Now, imagine the city where Marcus lived, the mighty city of Rome. From this height, it is no longer the roaring beast he knew, with its millions of voices, its endless markets, its grand arches and towering columns. It is a small, intricate jewel nestled beside a winding river, a delicate pattern of stone and dust, bathed in the soft glow of a setting sun or the silver light of a rising moon. The vast Colosseum, where gladiators once fought and crowds roared, is but a tiny circular scar on the earth's surface. The Forum, once the beating heart of an empire, a place of passionate speeches and weighty decisions, is now a collection of scattered ruins, like scattered teeth, barely visible. The entire Roman Empire, the vast dominion that stretched from the sands of Africa to the mists of Britannia, from the sun-baked deserts of the east to the cold, dark forests of Germania, all of it, from this incredible vantage point, shrinks. It is a patchwork of greens and browns, blues and grays, a temporary stain on the vast, ancient face of the earth. The Danube, where Marcus spent so many years in the cold, wet tents, is a silver thread. The Mediterranean Sea, the Mare Nostrum, our sea, a shimmering sapphire pool. The great wars that consumed his life, the bloody battles fought in the mud and snow, the clashes of legions and barbarians deafened. They are no longer the terrifying, deafening reality of individual men struggling for survival. From here, they are barely perceptible movements, like ants swarming over a crumb, their tiny struggles almost comical in their insignificance against the backdrop of an indifferent, majestic planet. The shouts of men, the clang of steel, the cries of the dying suing. All these sounds are swallowed by the immense silence of the upper atmosphere. Marcus understood this. He knew that from this cosmic distance, the petty ambitions of men, their fleeting triumphs, their bitter rivalries, their desperate clinging to power or wealth, giant, all of it was reduced to nothing. The grandest palace, the most magnificent triumph, the most devastating betrayal thinned. They were all just passing shadows on the surface of a spinning sphere. He would imagine the whole of Europe, then Asia, then Africa, all unfolding beneath him. The continents, the oceans, the vast, empty spaces, and beyond them the infinite, star-dusted velvet of the cosmos. Our Sunday, a distant, shimmering pearl. Our entire galaxy, a swirling, luminous cloud among countless others. From this perspective, the anxieties that weigh you down, the small worries that cling to your mind like burrs, the fears that whisper in the dark thunder, they too become utterly, beautifully insignificant. The deadlines, the disagreements, the financial pressures, the social expectations, they are all just fleeting, ephemeral concerns of a tiny, temporary creature on a tiny, temporary speck of dust, spinning through an unimaginably vast and ancient universe. Let your shoulders drop now. Let the tension drain from your jaw, from your brow. What is a day, a week, a lifetime, when measured against the slow, majestic turning of the cosmos? What is a single worry, when seen from the quiet, serene distance of the stars? You are floating now, suspended in this vast, benevolent emptiness. The earth below is a beautiful, fragile marble, turning slowly, silently. Its problems are immense, its beauty undeniable. But from here you are merely an observer. You are not tangled in its dramas. You are simply watching, breathing, existing. This is the cosmic perspective, a gift Marcus gave himself, a way to detach, to find peace in the overwhelming scale of existence, to understand that while your life is precious and real, it is also a small, brief chapter in an endless, unfolding story. And in that understanding there is a profound, liberating calm. So, let your mind drift. Let your thoughts become like the clouds below you, shapeless and temporary, slowly dissolving into the vast, clear blue. You are safe here. Above it all, a silent witness to the quiet majesty of the world. And as you float in this quiet space, let us descend gently, back towards the human realm, back towards the dust and the heat of an ancient desert, where another kind of peace was found. The desert wind carries secrets. It whispers tales of ambition and dust, of loyalty and betrayal, across vast, shimmering landscapes. It was in such a place, far from the marble halls of Rome, under a sky that burned with the sun's relentless gaze, that Marcus faced one of the deepest tests of his Stoic resolve. His general, Avidius Cassius, was a man he had trusted implicitly, a capable commander, a loyal servant of the empire, or so it seemed. But ambition, like a desert mirage, can distort even the clearest vision. News reached Marcus, then campaigning in the cold northern frontiers, that Cassius had declared himself emperor in the east. A usurper, a betrayer, a friend turned foe. Imagine the weight of that news, the chill it must have sent through Marcus, already burdened by war, by plague, by the constant, grinding demands of governing the world. A trusted ally, a man he had elevated, now openly challenging his authority, threatening to plunge the empire into civil war. The immediate human reaction would be rage, fury, a burning desire for swift, brutal retribution, to lash out, to punish, to make an example. This is the path most men would take, the path of injured pride and righteous anger. But Marcus was not most men. He paused. He breathed. He allowed the initial shock, the natural human pang of hurt and disappointment, to pass through him like a gust of wind through an open tent flap. He did not cling to it. He did not let it take root and fester. Instead, he chose a different path, a path of profound, almost incomprehensible calm. He knew that rage was a poison, a fire that consumed the one who held it. Cassius had already harmed himself by his actions, by shattering his own integrity. For Marcus to respond with equal fury would be to allow Cassius to harm him as well, to disturb the inner citadel he had so carefully built. So he made a decision that astonished his advisors and his legions. He did not immediately condemn Cassius. He did not call for his head. Instead, he expressed regret. He spoke of Cassius not as a monster, but as a man who had made a terrible mistake. He even wrote to the Senate, requesting that if Cassius were captured, he should be treated with leniency, that his family should be spared. And then there was the matter of the letters. After Cassius was swiftly defeated and killed by his own officers, a testament to the general's lack of true support, a collection of his private correspondence was brought to Marcus. These were the letters of the rebel, filled with his plans, his criticisms, his betrayals. Documents that could have been used to identify and punish all those who had conspired with him. A perfect opportunity for a purge, a settling of scores. But Marcus did not read them. Imagine the scene. The hot desert air, thick with the scent of dust and the faint memory of recent conflict. Marcus, perhaps sitting in his tent, the parchment scrolls laid before him. He holds a lamp or a torch, its flame flickering in the dry breeze. He looks at the sealed documents, knowing their contents could reveal a network of treachery. Then, with a quiet, deliberate motion, he takes the first scroll, not to unroll it, not to read the damning words, but to hold it to the flame. Feel the warmth of the fire on your fingertips. Hear the soft, dry crackle as the parchment catches, then curls, then blackens. Watch the edges glow orange, then crumble into ash. The scent of burning paper, a faint, acrid smell, drifts on the air. He did this with every letter. One by one, he consigned them to the flames, unread. The evidence of betrayal, the names of conspirators, the details of their plot suits, all turned to smoke and ash. Feel the ashes drift away on the desert wind. Fine, gray particles dissolving into nothingness. They carried no weight, no anger, no vengeance. They simply ceased to be. This was not weakness. This was the profound strength of a man who understood that true power lay not in retribution, but in self-mastery, in refusing to allow external events, even the most grievous betrayal, to corrupt his inner peace. He chose to forgive, not because Cassius deserved it, but because Marcus deserved the freedom that came with releasing anger. He knew that holding on to resentment was like grasping a hot coal, intending to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. So, when the world disappoints you, when trust is broken, when the sting of betrayal settles in your heart, remember Marcus. Remember the burning letters. Remember the ashes scattering on the wind. Let your clenched fists, if they are clenched, slowly, gently unclench. Let the tension in your jaw soften. Take a deep, slow breath and release it. Let the anger, the hurt, the desire for vengeance drift away like smoke. There is a profound peace in letting go. A quiet strength in forgiveness, not for the other person but for yourself. It is a fortress built not of stone but of serenity. A calm sigh in the face of chaos. Everything flows, nothing stands still. This was the ancient wisdom of Heraclitus, a philosopher from long before Marcus's time, whose words echoed through the centuries and found a deep resonance in the mind of the emperor. Marcus understood this fundamental truth, that the universe is not static, but a ceaseless river of change. Imagine yourself now standing by a wide, ancient river. It is not a turbulent, rushing torrent, but a slow, majestic current, moving with an almost imperceptible grace. The water is deep, dark, and smooth, reflecting the endless sky above. Listen to the sound of the river. It is not a roar, but a constant, gentle murmur. A soft, continuous whisper, a timeless lullaby. It speaks of eternity, of things passing, of things arriving. It is the sound of time itself, flowing onward, always onward. Feel the cool, damp air that rises from the water, carrying the scent of wet earth, of ancient moss, of the unseen depth. The sunlight, if it is day, glints on the surface, creating shimmering, shifting patterns of light, never the same twice. If it is night, the moon casts a silver path across the water, a path that is always there, yet always new. Look at the surface of the river, leaves drift by, carried by the current. A fallen branch, smooth and dark with age, floats slowly past. A tiny ripple caused by an unseen fish expands and then vanishes. Everything is in motion, everything is temporary, everything is on a journey. Marcus observed this ceaseless flow in all aspects of life. He saw it in the rise and fall of empires, like great waves breaking on a distant shore. He saw it in the lives of men 20 born, living, dying, like leaves budding in spring, flourishing in summer, falling in autumn, and returning to the earth. He understood that all the things we cling to sighty, our possessions, our reputations, our very bodies sindi, are but temporary passengers on this river of time. The grandest monuments built of the hardest stone will eventually be worn smooth by the ceaseless current of wind and rain, slowly crumbling into dust. The most powerful emperors, the most brilliant philosophers, the most beautiful artists, they are all like those leaves and branches, carried along, eventually disappearing from sight around the bend, or sinking into the deep. This idea of impermanence, this constant flow, might seem melancholic at first, but for Marcus it was a source of profound peace, because if everything flows, then nothing is truly permanent. The bad times, the struggles, the anxieties, the pain, they too are just ripples on the surface, destined to pass. They are not fixed, unchangeable rocks. They are fleeting moments carried away by the current. So, as you listen to the gentle murmur of this ancient river, let your own thoughts become like the leaves upon its surface. The worries of the day, the anxieties about tomorrow, the memories of yesterday thutin, let them float. Don't grasp them. Don't hold on to them. Simply observe them as they pass, carried by the current of your mind. Feel the weight of the past lift from your shoulders. It has flowed away just like the river flows to the sea. Feel the pull of the future soften. It has not yet arrived, and when it does, it will flow past you just the same. All that truly exists is this present moment, this gentle current, you are here now by the river. The water flows on, indifferent, endless, eternal, and in that endless flow there is a deep, quiet comfort, a sense of belonging to something vast and timeless, a part of the great, ceaseless turning of the universe. Let your breathing synchronize with the slow, steady rhythm of the river. In, out, flow, release, in, out. Let everything that troubles you simply drift away. All things flow, and tonight, as you rest, you are part of that gentle, endless current. The cold had deepened, and the air in the tent grew heavy with the scent of damp wool and dying embers. Beyond the canvas, the frontier camp of Vindobona was settling into its final deepest sleep. The distant call of a sentinel, muffled by the falling snow, was the last sound to pierce the quiet. Marcus had been unwell for days, the persistent cough a familiar companion now, a rhythm that matched the slow, deliberate beating of his own heart. He knew he had always known. The end was not a surprise, but a destination patiently awaited. He had dismissed the physicians, their frantic attempts at remedies futile against the tide that was pulling him away. Their worried whispers, their tinctures and poultices, were just more noise in a life that had been full of it. Now, there was only the silence, broken by his own shallow breaths, and the faint crackle of the last logs in the brazier. He lay on his simple campaign bed, not in the rich purple of an emperor, but wrapped in a coarse military cloak, the same kind his legions wore. It was a final, humble gesture, a return to the basic humanity he had always sought. The last rays of the setting sun, a pale, watery orange, struggled through the tent flap, painting a fleeting stripe of warmth across the rough fabric of his blanket. He watched it, his gaze steady, unblinking. It was the last sunset he would see, a quiet farewell from the world he had carried on his shoulders for so long. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth soak into his eyelids, then opened them again, clear and calm. He lifted a hand, slowly, almost imperceptibly pointing towards the fading light. His voice was a whisper, a mere breath of sound, but the centurion standing vigil heard it. "Go," he murmured. "Face the rising sun. My sun has set." A profound weariness deeper than any sleep began to settle over him. It was not the exhaustion of battle, nor the fatigue of endless administrative tasks. It was the weariness of a soul that had completed its journey, a spirit ready to lay down its burdens, one by one. The heavy gold ring, the symbol of his power, was no longer on his finger. The purple robe, the weight of an empire, had been shed years ago metaphorically in his heart. Now even the weight of his own body was loosening its grip. He turned his face slightly away from the last vestiges of light, towards the deepening shadows. The sounds of the camp faded into an indistinct hum, then into nothingness. The cold air, the damp canvas, the ache in his bones suited. All began to recede, like distant shores disappearing into a vast, tranquil sea. There was no fear, no regret, only a quiet acceptance, a profound peace that settled over him like the softest, heaviest blanket. His breathing grew shallower, softer, until it was barely perceptible. A gentle sigh carried on the cold night air. The hand that had wielded absolute power, that had penned the profoundest thoughts, now lay still, relaxed, open. The eyes that had seen empires rise and fall, that had witnessed both human cruelty and human kindness, were now closed, finding their ultimate rest. The long vigil was over. The task was complete. The emperor, the philosopher, the man, had finally come home to silence. And as he slipped away, the quiet stillness in the tent expanded, enveloping the entire camp, then the vast snowy plains, then the whole world. It was the deep, restorative quiet that comes after a long journey, after a monumental effort, after a lifetime of duty. It was the quiet you feel when the last page of a very long book is turned, and you can finally close your eyes, letting the stories and the struggles melt away into the deep. Welcoming darkness. Your day is also done. The burdens you carried, the thoughts that kept you awake, they can now be gently set aside. Just for tonight. Just for now, the man was gone. The emperor returned to dust. But the words remained. For centuries, they lay hidden, unassuming, not carved in grand marble, nor proclaimed by heralds in the forum, but scrawled in Greek on rough papyrus scrolls, then copied onto parchment. A private journal never intended for the public eye. A conversation Marcus had with himself, under the flickering oil lamps of military tents, or in the quiet corners of his imperial palace. These were not edicts, not histories, but fragments of thought, observations on life, death, duty, and the nature of the universe. Imagine the journey of these fragile scrolls. Perhaps tucked away in a dusty corner of the imperial library, forgotten amidst the grander pronouncements of emperors and poets. The Roman Empire itself began to crumble, its vast cities fading, its knowledge sometimes lost in the chaos. But somewhere, perhaps in a hidden monastery high in the mountains, or in the scriptorium of a faraway city, a monk, his cowl pulled low against the chill, would find them. Picture him in the dim, wavering light of a single candle, the scent of old ink and beeswax filling the air. His hand, calloused from years of prayer and labor, would carefully unroll a scroll, its edges brittle with age. He would begin to copy, his reed pen scratching softly on the vellum, the only sound the rhythmic whisper of the pen and the occasional turning of a page. He might not understand every nuance of the ancient Greek, but he would sense the profound wisdom, the quiet strength embedded in those words. Each stroke of his pen a small act of faith, a bridge across time. The centuries would roll on, like the slow, relentless current of a river. Empires would rise and fall, religions would transform the landscape, and the world would change beyond recognition. Yet these words, these quiet reflections, would persist. They would be copied again, translated, sometimes misunderstood, sometimes treasured. They were not shouted from pulpits, nor debated in crowded marketplaces. They simply were. A silent, enduring whisper from the past. Think of a medieval library, a vast, echoing hall filled with the hushed reverence of knowledge. Dust motes dance in the thin shafts of sunlight that pierce the high, arched windows. Row upon row of heavy leather, bound tomes line the shelves, their spines cracked, their pages yellowed, and amongst them perhaps a small, unassuming volume, its title barely legible, containing the thoughts of a long-dead emperor. It waits patiently for the right hands to find it, for the right eyes to read it, for the right mind to understand its message. And so it continued through the Renaissance, when scholars rediscovered the wisdom of the ancients, breathing new life into forgotten texts, through the Enlightenment, when reason became the guiding star, and into our own modern world, where you can find these words in a crisp, new edition, on a shelf in a brightly lit bookstore, or perhaps even glowing on a screen in your hand. The physical form changes 7 from papyrus to parchment, from hand-copied manuscripts to printed books, from books to digital files. But the essence, the quiet, persistent voice of Marcus Aurelius, remains the same. It is a voice that speaks across 2 millennia, reaching out to you tonight, wherever you are, a bridge of ink and thought, connecting his sleepless nights to yours, his anxieties to your own. You are not alone in this quiet darkness. The same moon that shone on his tent at Vindobona now shines on your window. The same human heart that sought peace then seeks it now. His struggle for inner calm, his meditations on life's fleeting nature, they are not just history. They are a shared human experience, resonating even now, a quiet testament to the enduring power of thought. Now, let your mind drift from the specific story, from the man, from the words themselves. Let us consider something more fundamental, more vast. The Stoics believed that everything, every single thing you see and touch, every thought you think, every emotion you feel, is ultimately made of the same basic elements. Tiny, indivisible particles, atoms, swirling and combining, forming temporary shapes and patterns. Your body, the bed you lie on, the air you breathe, the moon outside your window, 40, all are just arrangements of these atoms. And when the arrangement changes, when a form dissolves, it doesn't disappear. It simply rearranges. Imagine your body now, not as a solid, fixed entity, but as a temporary constellation of these tiny particles. Feel the subtle energy within you, the gentle hum of life. Now imagine that hum slowly, gently, softening. Your edges begin to blur. Your form becomes less distinct. The Stoics called this the logos, the universal reason, the underlying order of the cosmos. It is the grand, silent intelligence that orchestrates everything, from the spiral of a galaxy to the falling of a single leaf. And you, your consciousness, your very being, are a part of this logos. Not separate, not isolated, but intimately connected to the entirety of existence. So, as you breathe in, imagine you are drawing in the very essence of the universe, and as you breathe out, imagine you are gently releasing your own individual form, allowing yourself to dissolve softly into the vastness around you. Your physical body, this temporary vessel, will one day return to the earth. Its atoms will scatter, becoming part of the soil, part of the plants, part of the water that flows in rivers, part of the clouds that drift across the sky. You will become the dust motes dancing in a beam of sunlight. You will become the gentle breeze that rustles the leaves of a tree. You will become the silence between the stars. There is no loss in this, only transformation, no ending, only a seamless continuation into something larger, something eternal. Your individual story, your worries, your joys, your very name, Sidi, they are all just temporary patterns, beautiful and unique, but ultimately destined to merge back into the great cosmic ocean. Feel the boundaries of your body softening, dissolving, the weight of your limbs, the tension in your shoulders, the thoughts in your mind sunting. Let them all go. They are just atoms rearranging. They are just patterns dissolving. Your consciousness, too, is part of this grand dance. It is not an isolated spark, but a droplet returning to the ocean. You are merging with the quiet hum of the universe, with the vast empty space between the stars. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to fear, nothing to resist. Only the gentle, inevitable flow back to the source, back to the atoms, back to the void, back to the deep, silent peace that underlies all existence. Let your breath become slower, deeper, softer. Let your mind become still, vast, empty. You are dissolving. You are merging. You are becoming the quiet. You are becoming the darkness. You are becoming the darkness. You are becoming the peace. Sleep now. Rest. Dissolve.